Dear students, today in our lecture we'll consider the main units of verbal communication. To the main units of verbal communication we belong texts, communicative acts, and the next question is concept about a discourse. Verbal communication of communication is carried out by means of speech. Speech is understood as natural sound language, earliest system of the phonetic science, including two principles, lexical and syntactic. Speech is a universal remedy of communication, as at information transfer, with its help, the meaning of the message is conveyed. Thanks to speech coding and information, the coding is carried out. Types of verbal communication: oral, written language, hearing. Oral speech, dialogue as one of the forms of speech communication. Types of dialogue: information, manipulative, and polemic. Written and oral speech, hearing and reading belong to verbal means of communication. Oral and written language, hearing and reading, in perception of the text, information put in it, participate in production of the text information transfer process. One of the fixed assets of information transfer is speech. In speech, it is realized, and through it, by means of statements, language carries out the communicative function. The main functions of language in the course of communication treat: communicative, function of exchange of information; constructive, formulation of thoughts; appellative, impact on the addressee; and emotive, direct emotional reaction to a situation. And the last is interlanguage, interpretation function. The next we'll talk about concept about a discourse. What is a discourse? Discourse is the term that describes written and spoken communications. Its denotations include, in semantics and discourse analysis, a generalization of the concept of conversation within all modalities and contexts. The totality of codified language, vocabulary, used in a given field of intellectual inquiry and social practice, such as legal discourse, medical discourse, religious discourse, or etc. An announcement is not a unit of semiotic science, but an abstract construct that allows the science to assign and communicate specific repeatable relations to, between, and among objects, subjects, and statements. Hence, a discourse is composed of semiotic sequences, their relations among signs, between and among objects, subjects, and statements. The term discursive formation conceptually describes the regular communications, written and spoken, that produce such discourses. In the first sense usage, semantics and discourse analysis, The word discourse is studied in corpus linguistics. In the second sense, the codified language of a field of inquiry, and in the third sense, a statement, the analysis of discourse are affected in the intellectual traditions that investigate and determine the relations among language and structure and agency, as in the fields of sociology, feminist studies and anthropology, and in ethnography, cultural studies, literary theory, and the philosophy of science. Moreover, because discourses are bodies of text meant to communicate specific data, information, and knowledge, there exist internal relations within a given discourse and external relations among discourses, because a discourse does not exist in isolation but in relation to other discourses, which are determined and established by means of interdiscourse. Hence, within a field of intellectual inquiry, the practitioners occasionally debate what is and what is not discourse, according to the conceptual meanings, denotation and the connotation used in the given field of study. Thank you for your attention.